Early morning. California sunlight streamed through the high-end glass windows of Pacific First Bank, nestled in the heart of Mountain View, glinting off the pale marble surfaces. Inside the VIP area was enclosed with smooth, frosted glass light brown leather chairs and staff dressed as if ready for a Forbes cover shoot, tailored suits, Italian silk ties, gold-plated watches. Everything in this space was designed to say one thing, without ever saying it. Only those deemed worthy were allowed in. At that moment, the automatic glass doors slid open. Evelyn Reed stepped inside. No assistant. No escort vehicle. No luxury coat or designer handbag. After a long transcontinental flight, she had chosen a simple but neat outfit, a beige wool coat, white blouse, black trousers, and flat shoes. She walked calmly, eyes steady, holding a tablet in one hand. She didn't draw attention with her appearance, but something about her presence made her impossible to ignore, a quiet confidence that didn't need to shout. She headed toward the VIP area. The security guard at the entrance saw her from afar. A tall white man in a navy suit, earpiece clipped to his ear. He scanned Evelyn from head to toe in a second, and just as she was 2 steps away from the entrance, he raised his hand to stop her. "Sorry, ma'am. This area is for guests with prior confirmation only." Evelyn paused, nodded slightly. She opened her tablet and showed an invitation digitally signed by Karen Schultz, Regional Executive Director of the bank's Northwest Division. 9:00 a.m. meeting. VIP room on the 3rd floor. I just need a few minutes to prepare in the lounge before the meeting. The guard didn't read the content. He just glanced at the ID photo in the upper corner of the email, then lowered his voice, polite but firm. "I'll have to ask you to wait in the general lobby area." "Is there a problem with the meeting?" "No problem. But we have to ensure this space remains reserved for those suited to this specialized environment." "Suited how? I hope you understand. It's a standard policy. No rude words. No hateful glare." But it was the calmness in his voice, the polite smile that made it so much harder to swallow. Evelyn looked around. Inside the VIP section, 2 men in dark blue suits were reading newspapers, sipping espresso. A blonde woman spoke on the phone through AirPods. No one looked over. No one knew who she was. No one cared. She stayed silent, didn't react. No arguing. No explanations. No attempts to prove herself. Just a nod. "Thank you," she said softly, then turned away. She walked into the general waiting area, where the light was colder, the chairs were plastic instead of leather, and the sound of keyboard clicks mixed with hurried footsteps. But as she sat down, she opened her phone. She didn't call Karen, didn't file a complaint. She opened the internal executive app of Novatech, the fintech company she had founded. On the screen, a notification popped up: live press conference, 10:00 a.m. PSTC, NBC, and exactly 1 hour later. Every screen in the bank, from the main transaction hall to the reception desk, began broadcasting a surprise press conference from CNBC's San Francisco studio. A female anchor read the breaking news, her voice electric. This morning's headline: Novatech, a global leader in financial technology and payment solutions, has just announced the successful acquisition of controlling shares in Pacific First Bank, a top commercial bank in the Northwest. The scene cut. Evelyn Reed appeared on national television, wearing a simple white suit, hair tied up, gaze steady in front of the camera. "We are honored to announce that Novatech is now the largest shareholder of Pacific First Bank," she said. "From now on, the definition of suitable guests will change." The security guard's face went pale. Every employee in the bank turned to look at one another. One person's jaw dropped. The same man who had stopped her at the VIP lounge. Couldn't say a word. And behind the broadcast on social media, a security camera clip had already gone viral, the exact moment the woman was denied entry to a space she already owned. In less than an hour, the one labeled not suitable became the owner of the entire building. And that was how justice walked quietly into a bank in flat shoes and with a single tablet. She only came to prepare for a meeting. No fuss, No drama. Just a businesswoman arriving on time ahead of schedule to go over her final presentation, a presentation that could shape the future of digital finance for the next decade. But Evelyn Reed was never someone easily defined by the word only. As the founder and CEO of Novatech, the company leading the global digitalization of banking, Evelyn wasn't here to beg for a deal. She was here to seal a strategic alliance, a merger of technology and traditional finance. Her partner, Pacific National Bank, one of the 5 oldest banks on the west coast of the United States. That day, she wore a light cream blazer, black slacks, low heels. No heavy makeup. Just her hair neatly tied back. Elegant face, alert eyes, calm posture, the picture of a successful woman after a long flight and a sleepless night. She just needed a quiet place. A corner to sit down, open her laptop, glance through a few notes, and center herself before stepping into a room full of people who would see her as a mystery. She arrived at the VIP lounge of Pacific National Bank at 8:31 a.m. The first person to see her was Dean, the lounge manager. Dean was in his early 30s, tall, white, neatly styled brown hair, wearing a flawless charcoal gray suit. He had been thoroughly trained in professional communication with high-profile clients. He knew how to smile at the right moment, how to modulate his voice just enough to show respect and control. As Evelyn approached, Dean glanced at her for just 1 second. A quick scan from head to toe, a coat not from a known brand, a bag with no obvious logo, no VIP badge, no entourage, just a woman of color appearing, as if she had just come from a job interview, not someone about to lead a multi-million-dollar deal. Evelyn spoke first. "Good morning. I have a meeting with the senior investment director at 9. I arrived a little early and just wanted to sit here while I wait." Dean didn't respond right away. He looked down at his tablet, scrolled quickly through the list, paused, looked up. "I'm sorry, ma'am. The VIP guest list for this morning doesn't include your name. Please wait in the regular guest area." Evelyn nodded patiently. "My name is Evelyn Reed. Could you double-check under Novatech Partners? I have a meeting with EMS Hargrove, the FinTech investment director." Dean kept looking at her, then smiled faintly. "I understand, but we need to verify all names in our system before granting access to this area. This is a private space for special guests only." Evelyn handed him a business card embossed with the Novatech logo and the title CEO and founder. Dean took it, skimmed it, then looked back at her. Not entirely disrespectful, but not exactly trusting either. "Please wait while I check again." He turned around, walked away, didn't offer her a seat. No water, no further guidance. Evelyn remained standing. 1 minute, then 2. Still holding her laptop close to her body, eyes fixed on the space ahead. She didn't call anyone, didn't ask more questions, didn't argue. Sometimes those who've been left out of the room for not being the right fit learn to observe in silence, memorize every detail, and wait for the right moment. The VIP lounge continued as if nothing had happened. Tailored suits passed by espresso cups where poured handshakes echoed on the white marble floor. But everything was happening outside the invisible circle Dean had just drawn in his mind, a boundary between the invited and those who don't belong here. In front of Evelyn, a small gold-plated sign hung crooked on the reception desk, reserved for priority guests. No walk-ins. She looked at it for a moment, as if pondering who those words were really written for. Then she turned to the window beside her, looking out at the clear mountain view sky, and took a deep breath. She didn't need to enter the VIP lounge to prove her place. She was here for vision. As for indifference prejudice, that wasn't today's problem. It was the test for the entire system.
She pulled out her phone.
Not to complain, just to check the time. And for the next 59 minutes, Evelyn Reed wouldn't say another word to Dean. Because in 60 minutes, Dean would see that same face on the big screen broadcast live across the country, with a single sentence that would make the entire bank lobby hold its breath. Novatech is now the controlling shareholder of Pacific National Bank. And at that moment, Every glance would shift, but it would be too late to fix the way she had been received. Evelyn stood upright, her gaze calm. Not the slightest hint of irritation. No argument. She simply stated the information the same way she would for any other business appointment. I have an appointment with Mr. Ramirez at 11:30. I just want to sit in the VIP area to prepare a few documents before the meeting. Dean didn't respond right away. He squinted slightly, as if trying to recall whether he'd heard that name before, or maybe he was just searching for a reason to delay. It didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like a test. Sorry, ma'am. Can you show me the official invitation? Evelyn pulled out her phone, presenting the confirmation email from Mr. Ramirez's assistant. On the screen was the Pacific National Bank logo, a verified digital signature, and a subject line clearly stating confirmed Evelyn Reed's strategic partnership briefing. She also handed over her personal business card, a crisp white card embossed with Novatech's silver logo, her name in capital letters, EVLY and REA, DCEO, and FOU, NDEER. Dean took the card, flipped it over, and couldn't hide a subtle frown when he read the word CEO. But instead of checking the system using the information she gave, he typed a few things. Then shook his head. Sorry, I don't see your name in the reservation system. You should probably wait in the general lobby. The VIP lounge is for guests who are fully verified. He said that as if guarding a precious legacy, as if Evelyn were someone trying to sneak into the top floor of the building without a key card.
She looked at him for a long time.
Her eyes held no anger, no breakdown, just a weight, like someone who's heard this kind of thing far too many times to still be surprised.
She asked softly, like the breeze. Did you call to confirm? Dean smiled politely.
The kind of smile taught in frontline customer service training, but behind it was a certainty that he was right. I don't think that's necessary. For the first time that morning, Evelyn nodded gently, but not in agreement. She was remembering. She didn't say another word, didn't ask another question. She stepped back half a pace, still looking straight ahead, then turned and walked away from the VIP lounge slowly, calmly, as if she were still moving at her own rhythm. Not the rhythm of hurt, but the rhythm of someone who's seen too many doors close only to learn how to open them herself. She wasn't retreating. She was stepping back to observe. In the shared lobby where customers crowded for seats, Evelyn chose a spot near the glass wall. She opened her laptop, launched the presentation, and continued reviewing the material she had written across 3 sleepless nights. But in her mind, every detail of that encounter stayed sharp like a block of code that hadn't been debugged to the skeptical eyes. The dismissive tone. The way Dean said guests who are fully verified. A young woman walking past noticed her, paused for a few seconds as if about to say something. But Evelyn smiled and gave a subtle shake of her head, as if to say, not yet. Across the room, a large screen played the National Finance channel. A breaking news ticker ran across the bottom Novatech to announce boldest strategic move since IPO. No one in the room paid it any attention. No one realized that the woman sitting in the last row was the CEO of the company being mentioned. No one except for a young reporter sitting in the back right corner. She looked at Evelyn, then at the screen, then quickly picked up her phone and typed a message. And that message would travel far in under an hour. Back in the VIP lounge, Dean was still standing at the reception desk. He placed Evelyn's business card into the drawer, didn't log it in the system. His eyes scanned each guest walking in. His hand adjusted his tie out of habit. He had no idea that the VIP space he had just denied someone access to would soon be out of his control. He had no idea that the woman he just dismissed was the one about to rewrite this bank's entire client service policy. And he certainly had no idea that the security cameras had recorded the entire conversation. And in just a few more minutes, the executive office would start making calls. And the first person they'd be asking for was Evelyn Reed. Dean froze. The phone in his hand still displayed the ongoing call from Director Ramirez, But what he had just seen on the large screen slowed every reaction to a dangerously low pace. The entire waiting lounge, a space usually filled with the sound of flipping newspapers and light keyboard taps, had fallen silent. All eyes turned toward the large screen, where a red headline was flashing BREAKINGNAWSE. The anchor on Bloomberg, with a deep and steady voice, announced, "We've just received verified information from internal sources. Fintech giant Novatech has officially completed the acquisition of a controlling stake in Pacific National Bank, one of the most influential banks in the western United States." And then the image switched to Novatech's press conference room. Evelyn Reed appeared. No more long coat. No more flats. On live television, she stood tall in a crisp white suit, a symbol of leadership and transparency. Behind her, the Novatech logo slowly rotated on the LED screen. She didn't read a statement. She didn't glance at any paper. Her voice was calm, firm, and completely in control. "Today we're not just announcing a deal. We're redefining trust. We don't invest in balance sheets. We invest in people. And their trust." Dean spun around toward the lounge. Evelyn was still sitting there. Still the same buttoned-up white shirt. Still the open laptop in front of her. But now every staff member in the lobby was looking at her with a different gaze. No one spoke. No one dared to approach. Evelyn looked up. She stared directly at Dean, not with anger, not with vengeance, just a silent question in her eyes. "Who do you think I am?" At that very moment, a flood of internal calls began pouring down to the front desk. The director's assistant called, demanding find Evelyn Reed immediately and escort her to the 20th floor. An HR executive rushed through the lobby. Her eyes met Evelyn's, froze for a second, then she turned abruptly to avoid the tension. Behind the counter, Dean stepped back. Hands trembling, he opened the drawer, retrieving the business card he had once labeled as unverified. He stared at it for a long time. The words CEO and FOUNDER were no longer just a title, they were a mirror, reflecting the bias he had never admitted to himself. Everyone in the lobby kept their eyes on the screen. Evelyn was finishing her speech. "We're not going to change this bank from the top down. We're going to change it from the way each person is welcomed when they walk through this door. No more judgment based on skin color, gender, or how someone dresses." She paused. Then she spoke her final words, not to the crowd, but as if to one specific person. Each word dropped like stone on the glass floor of an outdated system, because sometimes a single look can make a customer walk away. But it can also replace an entire organization. A receptionist, young female Asian, slowly walked up to Evelyn. "Miss Reed, Director Ramirez is waiting for you in the executive suite. I've been asked to escort you." Evelyn closed her laptop. She didn't rise immediately. She looked around the lobby one last time. At every face, faces that had just placed judgment on her now swallowing the weight of their own gaze. Then she stood up, gave the receptionist a slight nod. Dean still hadn't moved. She didn't look at him. But as she walked past, he whispered, unsure if it was to himself or for her to hear, I'm sorry." Evelyn didn't respond. But in that fleeting glance, Dean saw something he would never forget, not anger, but exhaustion, the kind born from constantly having to prove oneself, from facing invisible tests only people like her ever have to take. And Dean understood that apology came too late. Evelyn's footsteps left the lobby, and each step was a bell-toll signal that from today on nothing would ever be the same again. The sound of internal calls buzzed in the background. Footsteps echoed hurriedly from the hallway behind. But in the center of the VIP lobby, a place usually filled with solemn silence, there was a strange stillness. Tense. Heavy. Dean stood frozen, as if glued to the stone floor. His eyes locked on the massive screen where Evelyn Reed was still live on air. No complaints, no attacks. Only the calm presence of someone who held complete control. A teller whispered into her colleague's ear, "She's the one they kicked out just an hour ago." The other widened her eyes, nodded quietly. A young staff member, unable to contain himself, muttered, They weren't just wrong about her, they were wrong about everything this bank thinks is right. Dean turned around, stepped back as if the ground had cracked open beneath him.
His throat dry.
I didn't know, he stammered. But no one was asking for an explanation, because now everyone was watching the screen where Evelyn was speaking from a polished press room at Novatech headquarters just blocks away. The broadcast showed her walking past rows of reporters, stepping onto the podium, adjusting the microphone with calm precision. "We are proud to announce, Evelyn," said, voice sharp and clear as a razor, "that Novatech now owns 51% of Pacific National Bank. This is not just a strategic move. This is a commitment to customers, to employees, and to anyone who's ever been turned away at the door because of bias." Right then, the elevator at the back of the lobby opened. The branch director, Mr. Hartley, rushed out, face flushed and panting. He stormed toward the counter phone, still in hand. "Evelyn Reed, is she here?" he shouted, scanning the lobby. "Why didn't anyone tell me she's a strategic partner?" His voice caught. Stopped cold as he met the gaze of the young female employee, the one who just told her friend Evelyn was the woman kicked out. Silence blanketed the entire lobby. By now, it was far too late. There were no words Evelyn needed to say, no actions she needed to take for revenge, because the truth had stood on its own. And power once denied because of a simple coat and the color of her skin was now laid bare before them, as clear as sunlight through the glass atrium.
Dean clenched his hands together, head bowed low.
No one yelled at him. No one accused him. But the weight of every glance and the reality he had just witnessed shattered his pride piece by piece. Meanwhile, on the screen, Evelyn closed her speech. "We will not change this bank through force. We will change it by listening to those who were once overlooked and those who have suffered in silence." Applause thundered from the room where she stood. Back at the bank, silence remained. Perhaps because they understood what just happened was bigger than a business deal, bigger than a PR message. This was a moment of power shifting not through anger, but through poise and truth. Evelyn didn't need to return to the bank to look Dean in the eye. She didn't need to bring up the rejection, didn't need to retaliate, because now the entire organization, from receptionist to branch director, understood something they had once failed to see. That woman didn't enter through the side door. She didn't ask for permission to be let in. She was walking forward to lead. And in just 1 hour, they were no longer the ones deciding who got access to the VIP lounge. Evelyn Reed, once denied for not looking the part, was now the one who decided who was worthy to stay. 1 week later, the sky over San Francisco was bathed in the soft blue of late summer. Inside Novatech headquarters, 52 and floor, the main conference room was glowing in daylight that streamed through glare-resistant glass. A walnut oval table, surrounded by the most powerful figures in fintech and traditional banking. Evelyn Reed sat at the center. This time, no one asked if she had an appointment. No one requested her business card. No one checked for a confirmation email. She wore a minimalist beige suit. No jewelry. No name badge. In front of her lay a 200-page system reform plan. The new program was called Hospitality and Human Equity. A regional director had just finished the opening presentation. The atmosphere was tense, expectant. Evelyn stood. No microphone needed. She didn't need volume because the room had stopped moving just to hear her speak. "We are managing a system that touches millions of lives. And in each of those interactions, we have two choices: treat them like a number or treat them like a human being." She walked slowly toward the projection screen. "I once sat in the waiting area for regular guests, not because I didn't have access to the VIP lounge, but because the gatekeeper decided I didn't match his idea of a worthy guest." A few people shifted in their seats, not in protest, but because they felt called out right where they'd once looked away. "We will rebuild the welcoming process from the ground up, not based on appearance, not based on tone of voice, not based on an employee's personal feelings." She paused, then smiled gently, because sometimes the person sitting in the regular lobby, wearing a plain coat, is the one rewriting this company's entire value system. From across the room, one board member nodded, then began to clap. The others followed. Not the forced kind of applause, but the kind that comes from realization and respect. The top floor of Novatech Tower. The CEO's private office. Spacious. Silent. Floor-to-ceiling glass walls. Looks down on the street where the Pacific National Bank headquarters still stood tall. Evelyn stood there alone, hands in her coat pockets, looking down at the building that once turned her away. A soft breeze stirred the hem of her coat. Behind her on the desk was a black and white photo, her and her father when she was 10. He stood in front of a small bank with a crooked sign that read account denied reason unverifiable income. She didn't blink. No anger. Just silence, the same kind she carried when she entered the VIP lounge that day and was asked to leave. It only takes 1 hour to turn a rejection into a historic transfer of power. Justice doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need revenge fueled by rage. Evelyn turned away from the window. She walked through the vast office. The motion lights dimmed behind her. All it takes is one microphone, one decision, and one person who never forgets who they are. Evelyn Reed, CEO of Novatech. The woman who didn't break the system. She replaced it.